Hi. Well, I saw somebody put up a question like this last night and I responded to it. And I thought, what a cool idea. So today's blog is actually going to be a video log, but quite honestly, I won't keep doing them this way. I do like my writing, but I thought for a bit of a novelty, I'd actually talk to you about something that's pretty important to me. And that something, of course, is Detritus, which is the game that I'm working on. And I want to talk a bit about the inspiration, about where the game came from, what it does for me, why I sort of am running this particular crusade to build my game, and give you some kinds of ideas. Like, I mean, I've been role-playing now for probably, it's close on 30 years now. Give it another couple of years, it'll be a 30-year role-playing sort of dream. So I have created games in the past. When, on my 13th birthday, my auntie gave me Magician by Raymond E. Feist to read, and I gobbled that up and loved the setting. So what I did, because I didn't realise that Magician had basically been born out of a role-playing game itself, Feist and his players played the setting. But I created Midkemia, the game. I have a player, Scott Desmond, who plays with me in person. He still talks about the game that I made and how he sort of remembers playing it and whatnot. It was quite a good game for the time, for a 13, 14, 15-year-old sort of thing to create. And ever since then, I've sort of always thought about going back and doing a game, but you know how life gets in the way. So currently I've sort of gone through changing my life to a point now where we, being my family and I, sort of look at the things that matter to us. And so one of them is that I would like to create a game. The setting of Detritus is in a reality where things that are forgotten coalesce or arrive and exist all in one place. The whole concept is that this reality was created so that things don't clutter up in actual reality. So this is basically a rubbish world where things that get forgotten come through the portals. The god of the time that created the reality gave himself over and created himself a race who would look after these things, and then gave himself over, essentially not killed himself, but it took on a different form so that magic could exist and that the race that took control of things that he created could handle things. He also knew that, as sad as it is, some races and some people would be forgotten, and that eventually the race that he created wouldn't be on their own, and he told that race that. And in essence, he gave them the go-ahead, or essentially the guide, to look after these races that come through. Because it's not their fault that they're forgotten. I suppose overall the gaming system's a bit of a comment on our society in general. It's a bit hard not to. I'm relatively indie and anti-consumer and anti-mass media and anti-mass marketing and all that sort of stuff. So when I see things like mass packaged crap that will amuse somebody for 5 minutes and then get thrown away and lost, I'm not overly impressed, and I suppose this is my comment on it. I've got a couple of things in my life. I like sort of olden style things. So, for example, this book here is my notebook. It's where I do most of my writing, etc. So, for my notes for games and stuff like that gets done inside this book. It's quite a nice book, etc. I like the olden style feel to it, and also a little bit of the steampunky type side of things with its clips on the edges and various sort of stuff. And I sort of got this book and I looked at it, and I've held this book for such a long time, and it was been empty for such a long time because I wanted to use it for a special project. In the end, I bought a smaller version of it, and now I'm holding that one, and I'm using this one for a notebook because I couldn't wait any longer. But that's me, because I'm reasonably impatient. And I looked at this book and I thought, you know, wouldn't it be a great thing if one day you found a book like this laying on the ground, and inside it was the details of some completely and utterly different reality. And it was written from the perspective of one of the people from that reality, and that's generally where the idea of this game came from. I decided then, okay, how can I build on that? What are my influences? And I thought about, the consumer side of things, and I've often thought about where do things go when they're forgotten. And so I thought, wouldn't it be cool to write a game from the perspective of a being? It's a self-referential game. In other words, it sort of claims that, this reality exists, but you have to play a game to get here. Because the reality exists only if you're forgotten. You can't get there if you know about it. And you talk to people about it, and you're sort of on this side, and people know, and you've got friends that you can play games with and stuff like that. So you'll never end up in the forgotten world. So the individual that writes to you talks about how they have spoken to various advisors and said that there is a way for you to cross into that reality, but that reality can be accessed only through a game. And they say that, okay, I'll give you the information about what is happening here, and you play the game and you'll arrive here and help us out. Because in essence, the reality itself is meant to be connected to our reality and 4 other realities. And that reality, their reality, where all the forgotten things go, are essentially under attack. And it's under attack from creatures from one of the other 4 realities. They are in there trying to find ways through the portals to our own reality. So they're fighting a war on our behalf that we don't know anything about, and they're asking for help. And that's where the idea comes from. Most of the creatures are quite unique in their own sort of special ways. The major amount of creatures that exist in this reality are little doll-like creatures that are actually spirits. They are spirits that take bits of the detritus, or the rubbish that gets put through to this reality, to form their own bodies, and they refuse to think of themselves as spirits. In fact, if they are forced to face the fact that they are spirits, they generally split into 2 new spirits that are too young to understand. Because something so horrific happened to them in their reality that they refuse to think about it. And when faced with those facts, it's sort of like a divide or die, and that's how they replicate, and why they're so populous, because there is some of the rubbish from their world, and once they sort of get a hold of it and realise what it is, that generally happens. There are humans, they're the forgotten humans, and they're the ones that are truly kind of sad but happy figures, because the human reality is the one that provides most of the detritus, or the forgotten stuff. And when they come through, they're generally the people that live on our streets that get forgotten, or the people that live inside their own homes and are too scared to come out and have been forgotten by society in those ways. And they come through to this reality. And because they know what some of this detritus is, the local populace who use it in ways that they see fit find it quite amazing to find somebody who knows it. So they're held up as spiritual leaders, and so it's a happy time for them, and they actually find that they're quite comfortable there. But it's so sad that they've actually reached the point where they've been forgotten. The other races, they're all either got destroyed, or in the case of the spiritual lost, or they were forgotten because they hid. And so it's not as sad in that aspect, but with the humans, it's only sort of like, a handful of humans from sort of each city would fall through the cracks and come to this reality. So there is a problem with some of this sort of stuff, though. It's set in current day, so the things that are forgotten, like CRT monitors and videotapes and stuff like that, are beginning to appear there. Lots of ET, Atari cartridges, etc. are there. But there's hardly any electricity, and those that have it guard it well. So a lot of the stuff that they could use, they can't, because there's not a lot of electricity or ways to create it. And those that do find the way to create it hoard it. It's a resource. One of the other races that are playable is their name's just changed. Jugo, I believe. No, Jugo. They are a hive mind race, which is made up of like thousands, hundreds of thousands of insects per individual, and they can collapse into a full sort of swarm of insects that just dissipate and become essentially just insects, or they can combine and their intelligence grows as the more of them gather, etc. And the last playtest, which happened on Monday, well, the only playtest so far that happened on Monday, the person that took this race just did such a fantastic job of playing them. It's such a unique character class or character race to play. There aren't any classes. The races were meant to be cosmetic, but they're not going to be now. After the playtest, I've seen sort of how they could be played, so I'm going to have to incorporate that somehow. But there are no character classes. It's a skill-based system. It's roughly based off Fate and Earthdawn, which is a weird mix, I know, but you have to see the rules to sort of have a look at it. Now, it is sort of not completely written yet. The rules are almost down, but the rules are about a third of what I want to write. There's another 2/3 of setting that I want to go on top of it. Essentially, I don't know how I'm going to deliver it yet. So we'll have to have a look at what we do in that regards. It might be the fact that we go to Kickstarter, or I was reading something from Fred Hicks a couple of days ago that says Kickstarters and stuff like that and publishing are all very hard, and perhaps you should start off with something small and offer it for free. So I don't know what way we'll go. There will definitely be a PDF version. If I do publish, I want it to come in something that looks like this, maybe. It might be a special edition kind of thing, but I also want to do it handwritten. Here's one of the other influences I've brought with me. It's this game, Hole. Okay, I've never played Hole. Not many people have, I don't think. It is a joke in a lot of ways. The game makers that made it wrote it as a bit of a joke, but this is what inspired me. It's all handwritten. Okay, and if I want my game to be a letter from one of the people inside, I wanted it to be handwritten. Whether that's the case or not, though, is a completely different thing. It's certainly not handwritten at the moment. If you know anything about me, I'm an IT sort of guy, so what I do is I spend a lot of time on the computer. So whether it becomes handwritten or not, who knows? PDF, probably not. But if I do the special edition printing version, then maybe it will be. I've always had, when I was, again, a younger man, I came across a version of The Hobbit that was handwritten on rice paper, and it was a horrendously expensive book, something far too expensive for a teenager to own anyway. And that, I think, is where the inspiration comes from that. So, what I want from this video is just for you to hear it from my lips. This is where I'm at. The game's rules are pretty much done. I'm about to leap into the setting. There is a game test at LugCon, and we've only got 2 to 3 players, I think, at the moment, and I'm more than happy to take more than that. So if you watch this and you think, sounds interesting, and you've got some time, now it's Australian Eastern Standard Time, it's about 7 o'clock, I think, on Sunday, so that will be very late evening in the US. Very early morning or early morning for the UK and Europe sort of thing. So if you're interested, come along. Give it a go. It's a very easy game to sort of get your head around. The dice rolling conventions, everything pretty much is on your sheet, your character sheet. And it's very imagination based, so if you like casting spells and stuff like that, you get to make your own up, which is kind of cool. Anyway, so hopefully this has given you all a bit of a better picture about what Detritus is. It's come out of my own words, and quite honestly, I hope we get some excitement around this. I'm excited about the game. The people that are playing it love it. I've got a small sort of dedicated community that are looking at it and they like it. We've got original artwork coming in from an artist that is a friend of mine, and it is fantastic art and perfectly suiting the setting. If you want to get an idea of what I want the setting to look like, I'll give you my final sort of influence. Watch the movie 9, which was produced by Tim Burton. It wasn't directed by him, but it was produced by Tim Burton. It's an animated movie about little sack creatures now, and its setting's kind of like an apocalyptic world. Now, it's the world that Detritus is definitely not apocalyptic, but it looks like 9. And some of the stuff that is in 9, like the creatures that the machine makes, is definitely stuff that will be included in this game. And it's an exciting sort of real visceral kind of horror-y type, survival type feel to it, and that's what I'm trying to get out of the experience. So again, thank you for watching. I won't be doing this with my blogs all the time, but thought it was a bit of a novelty for today, and hopefully hearing it from my lips can get a bit more excitement going about the game, because I'm excited and I hope you will be too when you see it. Thanks for your time.